Hello students, welcome to another exciting business studies class. Today we'll be looking at the topic, the departments in an office or organization. The departments in an office or organization. And by the end of the lesson, you should be able to define a department, identify different or various departments that can be found in an organization, or explain the functions of each department. We begin by defining a department. How can a department be defined? A department is one of the major divisions, underline the word divisions, is one of the major divisions of an organization concerned with a particular area of work. I take it again. Say a department is one of the major divisions of an organization, and each division is concerned with a particular area of work. What do we mean by this? Entering into an organization, especially an organization that carries out different activities, they are shared into departments. And each department has its own specific or particular area of work. Let's give, for example, you visit a hospital. In a hospital, there are different departments. You have the department for we call the ENT department, the ear, nose, and throat department. We have the pediatric department. We have the surgery department. We have different departments, each carrying out specific area of work. So if, for example, now you are someone with a broken bone and you've come to the hospital, and instead of you to visit the orthopedic department, you decided to visit the pediatric department. It's as good as you not coming there because your need can never be met there. And this is the reason why an organization is meant to have different divisions. So each division now is what we refer to as a department. Organizations are divided into different departments depending on the volume and the size of work done. So the major reason why an organization is meant to have different departments is because of the volume of work done there and also the size of work. Let me use a school setting as an example. The school setting, you have the administrative department, you have the science department, you have the arts department, you have the social science department, you have the commercial department, and so on and so forth. So each department has its own particular area of work. Now let's look at the various departments that can be found in an organization. Various departments in an organization. The first department I have here is the administrative department. We have the purchasing department, we have the accounting department, we have the sales department, transportation department, personnel department, planning department, and so many others. It depends on the type of organization and the nature of work done there. So you might not find this department in all organizations. Like I said, it depends on the type of work done there. In a hospital, you can have several other departments, but we are looking at the common ones that can be found around us. So I'll be taking each of them one after the other. We identify what each department is into, and we'll look at their basic functions. I start with the administrative department. The administrative department, popularly or usually called the admin department, is referred to as the nerve center of the organization. This department is in charge of the general running of everything in the establishment. They are in charge of the general administration, and this department is the main department of that organization. No organization can function without the administrative department being in place. And for every department, note this, there is a manager, there is a head. Each department is headed by someone. So as I will be identifying each department and explaining, I will also be what? Identifying the head of each department. So the administrative department is headed by an administrator or the administrative manager. In the administrative department, you can have the secretary, you can have the clerk, you can have the cleaners, you can have the environmental staff, you can have the general manager too. All this come together to form the administrative department. The secretary, the typist, the clerk, they all come together to form the administrative department because they are in charge of the general running and administration of the entire organization. So what are the functions of the administrative department? Number one, like I said, their duties include the general running of the affairs of the organization. Nothing happens in an establishment without the go-ahead of the administrative department. They are in charge of the general running of every activity of that organization. Nothing happens in the organization behind the administrative department. Number two duty is they also approve office requisitions. If, for example, departments are in need of things, they are expected to fill what is called a requisition form. And these requisition forms filled by the different departments are finally submitted to the administrative department for approval before the items can be given to them. So they approve all the things needed by the establishment for purchase. They also go around to make sure that everything needed in the establishment is made available. They are also in charge of writing and distributing emails, correspondence, memos, and letters. That is, they are in charge of communications. If, for example, now there is even a department needs to send a letter to another department or to another establishment, this can be done in the administrative department. Remember I said that in the administrative department, we also have the secretary. And this is one of the major duties of the secretary, to write and distribute emails, correspondence, memos, letters to individuals and also to other establishments. They are also in charge of filing of documents and letters. All the files of the establishment are kept in the administrative office. They are in charge of filing of documents and letters. They also ensure that all equipment in the organization are well maintained. Remember I said they are in charge of the general running of the affairs of the organization. So every equipment in the organization is in their care. So if there is any problem with any equipment in any department, it is the duty of the head of department to report to the administrative department because they are in charge of ensuring that all the equipment are working well. This is to ensure that all activities in the organization are moving smoothly. They also provide general support to visitors. Every visitor or any visitor that visits an organization, the first point of contact is the administrative department. So all visitors are welcomed in the administrative department. In there, we have the receptionist too. We have the secretary. They are in charge of welcoming visitors and also granting them general support needed. They also make travel and meeting arrangements. If, for example, now a meeting is meant to be called, it is the duty of the administrative department to call for meeting. Or if, for example, any member of staff or anyone needs to travel for official assignments, they are in charge of making arrangements for the employee. So all these are the functions of the administrative charge. So administrative department, sorry. So in other words, they are in charge of everything going on in the organization. Nothing happens behind the administrative department, and that is the reason why they are taken as the first department in the establishment. The second department, or another department, is the purchasing department. Another word that we can use in place of purchase here is to buy. The purchasing department, they are the ones responsible for buying all the materials and equipment needed in the organization. They are in charge of buying all equipment, everything needed by the organization to function well or for effective running is bought or purchased by the purchasing department. That's the reason why it's essential for every department to fill a requisition form of what they are in need of. These requisition forms by each department are submitted to the purchasing department, finally approved by the administrative department. Then it is the duty of the purchasing department to ensure that all these materials are provided for the establishment to keep running smoothly. What are their functions or their duties? Number one, they make sure that the right quantity of goods are purchased. They ensure that the right quantity of goods needed in the establishment are purchased. They also help in interacting with suppliers and placing orders for the goods to be purchased. They also look, in as much as every department, all other departments have submitted their requisition forms, that means the things needed by them, they are the ones to look for suppliers, to supply the goods. They place orders for the goods to be delivered. They also check deliveries to make sure that they tally with quotations and orders. They ensure that as the suppliers are bringing in the goods that they have placed orders for, these deliveries are in line with the orders received and also the quotations given by the suppliers. They also inspect the goods supplied to make sure that they are in good conditions. Every product or every material supplied by the supplier, it is the duty of the purchasing department to check every good to ensure that they are delivered in good condition. Then lastly, they ensure that these materials brought are properly stocked. That means they are properly kept. They are kept in a safe place. Of course, they have a store or a warehouse where all these materials, once they are bought, are kept. So they ensure proper stocking of materials in a safe place, because anything that happens to any material in their warehouse or any good in their possession, they are accountable for it. These are the duties of the purchasing department. The next department here is the accounting department. The accounting department is the department that is responsible for the financial transactions of an organization. They are in charge of recording the inflow and the outflow of cash, the amount of money that comes in and the amount of money spent out of the organization is recorded and reported by them. At the end of every session or any period, they are meant to give what is called a financial report of the inflow and the outflow of cash. That's the reason why anytime you enter an organization and you want to make payment, they tell you go to the accounts office. And this department is headed by a chief accountant. This accounting department is headed by a chief accountant, because they might have some other accountants working in, they might have accountants in each department, but each accountant in each department is expected to submit to the chief accountant. Then in educational institutions like higher institutions, we can use the word bursar. So it's headed by either a chief accountant or a bursar, as the case may be. So what are the functions of the accounting department? Number one, they are in charge of preparing and paying the salaries or wages of workers in the organization. They are in charge of preparing salaries and wages of workers. What's the difference between salaries and wages? For those that don't know, let me just explain. Wages are paid either on a daily or a weekly basis, while salaries are paid monthly. There are some workers in establishments where they are paid either daily, depending on the type of work done. So the duty of the account department to pay the wages and the salaries of workers. Then they also prepare vouchers. Vouchers are used for the payments of the salaries and wages for proper accounting records. Then they also handle tax matters of the organization. Every establishment is meant to pay tax. So it is the duty of the accounts office to handle tax matters of the organization. I also talked about preparing financial statements. At the end of every period or season, they give what is called a financial report. That's of the inflow and the outflow of cash or money into the organization. They report to the administrative office on how money has been received and spent. So they prepare financial statements of the organization. They also prepare and implement organization's budget. The organization at the beginning of the trading year, they have a budget in which they have analyzed their income and their expenses. So the duty of the account department to prepare the budget, that means the sources through which money will come in and also how the money will be spent. They prepare that. They also ensure that the budget is followed. They also safeguard organizations' assets through internal control. Remember, every asset has value. And one of the duties of the account department is they have ledgers where they keep record of assets. Assets are valuable properties, materials that belong to the organization. So the account department, they have books of accounts where assets are recorded. So the account department, they also ensure that all assets in the establishment are properly managed and controlled. Then lastly, they take care of the organization's cash flow. That means they monitor the inflow and the outflow of cash. They monitor the income and the expenses of cash. They ensure that expenses does not exceed income. Instead, the income should be greater than the expenses. So these are the functions of the accounts department. Another department we will look at is the sales department. The sales department, as the name implies, is mainly responsible for selling the products of the organization. Those departments is basically found in industries or organizations that are into selling of goods, marketing of goods, production, distribution of goods. So the sales department they are the ones in charge of selling or marketing the products of the organization. And this department, like I said, every department has a manager, has a head. So the sales department is headed by a sales manager. What are the functions of the sales department? Their major function, which is number one, is selling goods and services to customers. They are in charge of selling and distributing goods and services to customers. They ensure that the goods and services produced by the organization or the goods and services made available by the organizations get to the consumers who are the final or the end users. They also keep record of the goods produced and sold. This department works with the production departments. So what do I mean by this? The products produced in the production department are transferred to the sales department for sales. So as the products are being sent to the sales department for sales, they keep records of the goods sent to them by the production department. And as they are also selling, they are also keeping records. They also handle customers' complaints on defective goods or unsatisfactory customers. It's also the duty of the sales department to handle complaints on defective goods. If, for example, now, a product sold to a customer by the sales department, the customer comes back to say, the product sold to me has a default or has a complaint or is bad, or maybe while on transit something happened to it, they should not ignore. They should be able to handle the complaint, and anyone they cannot handle, they refer the complaint back to the administrative department. They also handle unsatisfactory customers, They handle unsatisfactory customers. No customers will always complain. No matter how you try to give them the best, they must always, some of them will complain. So you should be able to give them listening ears and attend to their complaints. Another function of the sales department is they look out for sales opportunities. That means they don't only depend on existing customers, they also look out for what? New opportunities, new customers, new access that will enable them to sell more products, because they are the marketers of the products. So they don't only depend on the existing customers, they also look out for new customers. They bring out new ideas that can help them to sell their products or services more. Then lastly, remember, they are the closest to the consumers, that's the customers. So they recommend modification of products or services. That means they are the ones that get feedback from the customers. So when they get back to the office, they should be able to recommend modifications based on customers' complaints to the production department and also to the administrative department. Then they can also add to the new ones. Maybe they already have a modification for their production. They can also bring out new ideas to add to the company's mix. They recommend, they add new ideas on how products can be modified to satisfy or to meet the satisfaction of their customers. Another department is the planning department. This department too is also a very essential one in every organization that wants to move forward should have a planning department. The planning department, which we can also call the research and development department. This department is responsible for the implementation. They are in charge of carrying out the procedures for the running of the organization. They think, they plan, they set out procedures that will enable the goals of the organization to be achieved. They set up achievable goals, goals that they know that are achievable to ensure that the business or the organization does not stay on a spot. That's the reason why I said we also call them research and development department. They go into research, they think, they brainstorm, they come together and bring out ideas that can do what? That can improve the organization. And like every other department, the planning department is headed by the planning manager. What are their other functions? Number one, they plan the business activities of the organization. That's the reason why we call them the planning department. They bring out laid down rules and procedures that can make the business to do what? To function properly. They plan on how the goals of the organization can be achieved. They also go into research. They research into areas that will improve the organization's wealth. They go into research, they plan, they diversify, they think, they brainstorm, they come together and think of ideas that the business can use to do what? To improve the wealth, the resources of the organization. They also assist in improving existing products and developing new ones. They are creative. They analyze long-term goals of the organization. Every organization has both short-term and long-term goals. So they also look at long-term goals that will enable the organization to keep running. They analyze long-term goals in order to ensure that the organization's resources and strategic initiatives, and they also bring out initiatives that are required to meet out these long-term goals. These are the functions of the planning department headed by the planning manager. Another vital department, important one, is the personnel department. The personnel department. This department deals with everything relating to staff matters. They deal with matters about staff welfare, staff employment, that's staff recruitment, selection of new staff, staff promotion, staff training, staff welfare packages, and so on. And this department is headed by the personnel manager. Let's look at the functions of the personnel department. Number one, they help with the recruitment and selection of new employees. They assist in ensuring that the organization is able to recruit, that is, employ new staff. They help in the recruitment, they help in carrying out the process for employing new staff. And also they make sure that they select the best staff for the establishment. They also keep records of staff on promotion, transfer, and also staff termination. They keep record and they ensure that staff that are meant to be promoted are promoted on time. Staff that are meant to be transferred are transferred. Staff that are not also doing well, that are meant to be dismissed, they also ensure that all this take place. They also handle employees' benefits and compensations. They ensure that the employees are well taken care of. They have good welfare packages, good benefits, good compensation. Remember, hard work is meant to be compensated. So they are in charge of handling the employees' benefits and compensations. They also ensure both the physical and the social well-being of all their employees. They ensure that the employees are physically and socially fit for the job doing. So they create a suitable environment to ensure the physical and social well-being of all the employees. And lastly, they also help in organizing trainings that can bring about the development of staff, especially the new ones. They organize trainings and development of staff and also for new employees. The next department is the production department. Remember I said this department works together with the sales department. The production department, they are in charge of producing or manufacturing goods. This department is in charge of turning raw materials into finished goods in the establishment. Any organization that is in charge of creating things, producing goods to the consumers, they definitely have the production department. And just like every other department, the production department is headed by the production manager. What are their functions? They schedule production activities in the organization. That means they state out, they schedule how their production activities will be like. They ensure that finished goods meet the minimum quality standard. They ensure that every product produced meets the quality standard of the establishment. They also ensure that the goods are produced at very low cost in order to maximize profit. They ensure that raw materials are not wasted, money is not wasted, and goods are produced at very low cost so that the organization will be able to maximize and get as much profit as they want. They also help in maintaining and properly handling the machinery and equipment used for production. That means those machines and equipment under their care that they use for production, they ensure that these machines are properly maintained and properly handled. Why is this important? They are the ones using the machines, and they are going to be held accountable for whatever happens to the machine. Then lastly, they work in collaboration with the purchasing department. Remember, we talked about the purchasing department, that they are in charge of procuring or purchasing, buying materials needed by the entire organization. So the purchasing department, they work together with the production department work together with the purchasing department so as to make sure that all the material that they need for production are always available for use. Not when it is time to produce, that is when the purchasing department is just going to buy materials. No, they ensure that before production takes place, all materials are already on ground. So they work in collaboration with the purchasing department. Lastly, let's look at the transportation department. The transportation department, or the transport department, is solely responsible for the movement of people, goods, and services in an organization. They are in charge of the movement of people, the movement of goods and services from one location to another. And this department is headed by the transport manager. What are their functions? They ensure the maintaining and purchase of vehicles. Remember, they have a manager, so it's the duty of the manager to ensure that vehicles are made available for use. Then they also ensure that these vehicles are properly maintained by the drivers. The department is also responsible for assigning drivers to the different vehicles for sale or delivery of goods. They are the ones that assign drivers to each vehicle for sale of goods or for delivery of goods. They also make transport arrangements for employees who work outside the office. There are some establishments that they have transport services for their employees. So the driver, it is the duty of the transport department to ensure the proper arrangement for these transports. Then the last function is they ensure strict compliance with safety measures. It is the duty of the transport manager to ensure that all the drivers comply with safety measures, either on the road or the use of the vehicles. They ensure strict compliance with safety measures, because if anything happens to any vehicle, they will be held responsible. So these are the various functions of the transportation department in an organization. So we have looked at various departments. Let's just take a quick recap of what we have learned so far. We identified a department as one of the divisions of an organization. And I also made mention that each division or each department is concerned with a particular area of work. We looked at different departments, like the administrative department, which we refer to as the nerve center of the organization. We said they are in charge of the general running of the activities of the organization. We also looked at the personnel department in charge of staff matters, staff welfare, staff promotion, staff benefits, staff compensation, recruitment, and all that. We also looked at the accounts department in charge of recording the cash flow of the organization, the inflow and the outflow of money. We also looked at the sales department in charge of marketing or selling the goods or products of the organization. We looked at the purchasing department in charge of buying all the materials needed by the organization for effective running of the business. We talked about the planning department, which we also call the research and development department. They are in charge of planning. They are in charge of making research on how the goals of the organization can be achieved. And lastly, we looked at the transport department, in charge of the movement of people, goods, and services from one place to another. So with this, we come to the end of the lesson. But before we go, let's take some questions to be sure that we've understood what the topic is all about. The first question says, office is a place where administrative and dash activities are carried out. Option A, we have clearing. B, we have clerical activities. C, we have operational. D, we have electrical. E, we have construction. An office, remember all these departments, they are also offices. So it's essential to know what these departments are into. They are all carrying out what we call administrative and clerical activities. So the answer is option B. An office is a place where administrative and clerical activities are carried out. The next question says, marketing of finished goods is handled by dash department. Marketing of finished goods is handled by dash department. We have the administrative department, we have the research department, purchasing department, sales department, personnel department. We looked at all these departments one after the other. So what do you think the answer should be? Looking at it critically, our answer is option D. Marketing of finished goods is handled by the sales department. Remember, I told you that the sales department work together with the production department. So they are the ones, the sales department helps in marketing goods produced by the production department. The next question says, the conversion of raw materials into finished goods is handled by dash department. The conversion or the changing or transforming, as the case may be, the conversion, you can also use another word like changing, transforming of raw materials into finished goods is handled by dash department. We have the purchasing department, sales department, accounts, production, and transport department. So our answer here is production department. To produce means to convert raw materials into finished goods. So our answer is option D, production department. Let's take the next question. Says, controlling of all the activities within an organization is the duty of dash department. Remember, when I was teaching, I made mention of a particular department in charge of controlling all the activities of the entire organization. So what is that department? Option A says production department, B, administrative department, C, purchasing department, D, accounts department, E, personnel department. The answer is B, administrative department. I said they are referred to as the nerve center of the organization. They are in charge of the general running of the activities of the entire organization. Let's take the last question, which says, which of the following offices is alien to the school environments? Which of the following offices is alien to the school environment? We have the counselor's office, we have the principal's office, we have the manager's office, we have the boss's office, we have the staff office. The word alien means which one is Different, which one is not meant to be in the school environment. That means which of the following office is not meant to be in the school environment or cannot be found in the school environment. We have the counselor's office, it can be found in the school environment. We have the principal's office, which can be found in the school environment. We have the boss's office. I said we can also call it the accounts office, which can be found in the school environment. And of course, the staff room can also be found in the school environment. So the only one that is a little bit different here is the manager's office. The manager's office. Instead of the manager's office in the school environment, we have the administrative office or the principal's office or the proprietor or the proprietress office. So the answer here is C. So with this, we come to the end of today's teaching, and I believe you have learned a lot from our teaching for today. See you in the next class. Bye.